So let's bring up the book that we're going to take a look at today. And let me see how I get it up there. Where is it? That's not it. There it is. There we go. Who's afraid of the big bad Jew? Today I heard that the Pope has issued a statement calling for a ceasefire in Gaza. God bless that Pope. And he didn't mention anything about hostages. He doesn't really concerned about that. He wants to say something for everybody. And here's a question. Who's afraid of the big bad Jew? Now, this is a detailed book that's going to go into different ideas. But the Pope is one of the people that's afraid of the big bad Jew. Shall we go on? Here we are. So he writes like this: the common denominator, Jews are what you despise. From the Hellenist Greeks to the Crusaders and the Nazis, and from the communists to Iran and the Muslim Brotherhood, authoritarian ideologies often seem to have two things in common: an obsession with conquering the world. Now we have Islam and what do we call the Marxists on the same team, but each with a different vision. And one thing they have in common is they hate Jews. Despite these groups having diametrically opposed worldviews, their primary common enemy remains the Jew. Historian Robert Wilstlich, I think it's pronounced Wistrich, articulates this bizarre phenomenon in his epic work, Anti-Semitism, The Longest Hatred. Whether it be fear of pollution by alien inferior races, the angst provoked by class struggle, ethnic and religious conflict, the leveling tendencies of mass society, the hatred of capitalism or communism, they all conclude that the principal evil in this world is not in ourselves, that is from themselves, it comes from the outside, from the mythical Jew. The problem comes from there. It is astonishing that the target is always the Jews. Anti-Semitism is unique in its universality, its intensity and longevity. Yet, it consistently presents with a similar theme. Jews are seen as more than just a disliked group. They are perceived as a mortal threat to civilization. It is this exaggerated belief that so often drives Jew hatred beyond mere racism to genocide. Author Dara Horn summarized the elasticity and the how of Jew hatred as traced in historian David Nirenberg's book Anti-Judaism. This deep neural groove in Western thought becomes difficult to dismiss. Its patterns are unmistakable. If piety was a given society's ideal, Jews were impious blasphemers. If secularism was the ideal, Jews were backward pietists. If capitalism was evil, Jews were capitalists. If communist was evil, Jews were communists. If nationalism was glorified, Jews were rootless cosmopolitans. If nationalism was vilified, Jews were chauvinistic nationalists. Anti-Judaism thus becomes a righteous fight to promote justice. Anti-Semitism's persistence and intensity throughout history reveals a deeply rooted hatred that transcends time and ideology. Just look and listen to the world. Now, what's great about this book is calling a spade a spade. Basically, he's saying what it is. He's not coloring it in different kind of political ideas, or we want this, or want that. This is just a fact. This is the how of anti-Semitism. But the unyielding animosity demands a closer examination to understand why Jews have been uniquely targeted across centuries and cultures. Now he has a section here he calls reasons or excuses. He says, knowing the perplexing how of Jew hatred only begs the question further, why is it that Jews perform this bizarre role in history? We need to go deeper and understand why the Jews are consistently chosen. It's not enough to say that Jews become the opposite of society's values. Even if true, it doesn't fully explain the issue. We see that there seems to be an infinite number of possible reasons to hate the Jewish people. But what is so strangely compelling about them that brings together so many diverse peoples, cultures, and religions around the same idea, around a murderous obsession? The ultimate goal of anti-Semitism is eliminating Jews. The reasons seem to be secondary. Many contradictory and imaginative excuses have been made to explain the hate. But the big question persists, why do so many people and nations want to see the Jewish people wiped out? Why even today? Now we're just 80 years after the Holocaust when he was writing this. Now he wrote this book before October 7th, 2023. And not only millions of Islamists, but also many college professors calling for the elimination of the only, quote, Jewish state. Why, when we envision life in the year 3001, must we always envision anti-Semitism? What's behind the incredible exceptionalism of anti-Semitism and, by extension, of the Jews? So we have here now, he brings three possible explanations. There are three possible answers to the above questions. One, it's not about the Jews. Number two, the Jews are really bad. Number three, it's about the Jews. Let's think about each of these possibilities. So let's, first of all, it's not about the Jews at all. It's become the accepted explanation of anti-Semitism and is actually the reason most commonly given. The claim is that we are being used as scapegoats, which means it's just a bad coincidence when society needs to blame some group, we're the ones for them to use. It means that despite what anti-Semites may say are their reasons for hating Jews, those reasons are not only really what bothers them. Conventional wisdom would have us believe that it's simple xenophobia. That's it, you got to erase xenophobia. A garden variety of bigotry and dislike of the unlike. The Jews were at the wrong place at the wrong time. Sometimes the idea is expressed as anti-Semitism is a virus, a disease that is seemingly unknowable. The Jews, another idea is that the Jews are really bad. This answer assumes that everything that anti-Semitism says, that says that we are a bothersome force, an evil influence deserving of persecution in every generation, it's true. That's one possibility. Then the other possibility is that it is about the Jews. The Jews are not so bad, and Jew hatred is not as an unfathomable disease. But there is something deeper beyond the contradictory smears, the double standards and the obsessions that has fueled anti-Semitism for thousands of years. So, which one is the answer? So the conventionally accepted explanations of anti-Semitism are inadequate. Either they only identify the external excuses or they give up on explaining it by saying Jews are convenient scapegoats, but these explanations really don't reach the heart of the matter. As Douglas Murray said, this can't be a coincidence. These attempts to explain Jew hatred as being unrelated to the Jews is what Dennis Prager and Joseph Telushkin have called the Judaization of Jew hatred. If anti-Semitism is a maturing, mutating virus, as it's popularly called today, then let's behave as doctors do. Let's stop being distracted by the myriad and contradictory symptoms, and instead, let's search for the root cause of the virus. Now, he says, to get to the answer, I've done what it seems I do well and sadly, somewhat uniquely. I listen to the Jew hatred. He listens to what they're saying and takes seriously what they say rather than interpreting and having them mean what I want to hear. I will share with you what I have learned from a most surprising source. You see, it turns out that history's worst and most famous Jew hater provides an unexpected explanation of who the Jews are. And through exploring the dark corridors, let me get this up here, of Adolf Hitler's mind, we will unearth a paradoxical affirmation of the Jewish people's significance. And this will be another shiur. We'll get into Hitler and understand a little bit more deeply about this book. This is Baruch Fleischman. You're listening to the Tikkun Elevator Call-Up.